Hey there, this is James Carberry, founder of Sweetfish Media and one of the co-hosts of this show. For the last year and a half, I've been working on my very first book. In the book, I share the three-part framework we've used as the foundation for our growth here at Sweetfish. Now, there are lots of companies that have raised a bunch of money and have grown insanely fast, and we've featured a lot of them here on the show. We've decided to bootstrap our business, which usually equates to pretty slow growth. But using the strategy outlined in the book, we're on pace to be one of Inc.'s fastest growing companies in 2020. The book is called Content-Based Networking: How to Instantly Connect with Anyone You Want to Know. If you're a fan of audiobooks like me, you can find the book on Audible, or if you like physical books, you can also find it on Amazon. Just search Content-Based Networking or James Carberry, Carbary, in Audible or Amazon, and it should pop right up. All right, let's get into the show.
Hey everybody, Logan with Sweetfish here. As we've been doing all throughout January, we continue our countdown of the top 20 episodes of 2019, today with number 4, which is the first in a 2-part series we did with Lauren Vaccarello on starting your very first ABM program. To get more episodes coming up in the countdown, make sure you're subscribed to the show in Apple Podcasts or wherever you do your listening. You can also check out the full list at sweetfishmedia.com/blog. Just look for the hashtag best of 2019 in the categories on the right-hand side of that page. Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. I'm your host for today's episode, Logan Lyles, Director of Partnerships here at Sweetfish Media. I'm joined today by Lauren Vaccarello. She is the former VP of Marketing and Customer Engagement at Box. She is also the co-host of the Marketing Trends podcast. Lauren, how you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Hey, I am just as excited, probably more so. I love talking to marketers with interesting journeys, a lot of experience, and people who are also passionate about podcasting. And we've got the trifecta in you today. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Getting on and being able to geek out on marketing with another sort of aficionado is one of my favorite things to do. So it should be a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, Lauren, we're going to get beyond a little bit the why of ABM. A lot of folks have been talking about, the why of ABM. We've done series as we were on site at Flip My Funnel last year, obviously a big conference in the ABM space. I'm really excited to have you share some tactics with folks in some ABM efforts that you have led and speak to the how a little bit. But before we do that, we have to give people a little bit of background on your story because it involves marketing for a record label in Brooklyn, kind of one of your first stops in marketing in a roundabout way, and then some time at Salesforce. So I would love for you to share with folks a little bit of your winding road because I think it speaks a lot to, the perspective that you have these days.
Totally. I'll give you a quick background. So I said Lauren Vaccarello. I've been in marketing for about 15 years. And what I feel like everyone knows me for out here in the Bay Area is, I've been marketing in tech for 11 years. I used to run digital at Salesforce, but my background is a non-traditional path to get here. Like you mentioned, so my first job in marketing, I did marketing at a punk rock record label in Brooklyn. And it was honestly one of the most fun jobs I ever had. And I always thought I wanted to work in music and I loved the band. So I went and took the subway into Brooklyn way before Brooklyn was as hip as it is now to actual old warehouses and got to do everything from meeting bands to designing album covers. I'm not a designer, which is, I apologize for anyone whose album cover I worked on. And then I ended up going from there. I actually worked on online marketing for an online trading company shortly after that. Mm-hmm. And to go from a punk label in Brooklyn to working on Wall Street, eventually running online marketing for an online trading company. And just for some background, people now take classes and go to school to be digital marketers. And it is a really good job path. It is the future of marketing, or has been the future for a while. When I started in digital, it was long before digital was socially acceptable. So I was working at this off-exchange trading company on Wall Street doing digital marketing, which was not a socially acceptable career path. But who knew it would turn out to where it is? And at the time, everything we were doing was online. I was doing everything from setting up this webinar program, because who knew what webinars were, to figuring out how to tie in online and offline, because we had salespeople that were calling leads, and we were running, Google AdWords campaigns. And I had this theory that the different keywords that we bid on, even though they all created leads, not all leads were the same, because I sat next to the sellers and I've been a seller. So I knew the quality was different. So I figured out how to connect Salesforce and Google AdWords through this amazing tool called Keaton, which became Salesforce for Google AdWords after Salesforce acquired it. And then the founder of Keaton ended up being my boss at Salesforce, 8 years later, or 7 years later, which was this amazing, weird coincidence, because that really is what started the trajectory of my career, and figuring out how not just to drive leads, but how to drive better quality. Ended up starting my own company, moving to California, starting my own company, financial vertical, in 2008. And for anyone old enough to remember 2008, remembers that that was the worst time to start a company, because the global financial crisis happened and there were no jobs and no money and no advertising spend. Then I ended up at Salesforce for about 4.5 years. And when I started at Salesforce, it wasn't Salesforce today, which is the Salesforce Tower and this incredible, massive company. It was, 2,500 people, which was still big, 2,300 people, not the category leader. It was the, scrappy up-and-comer going after Oracle. And they wanted to start a digital program. And I've been doing digital at that point for a number of years, and went in to start paid acquisition. Figured I'd be there for a year. Spent 4.5 years there. And by the time I left, I was running all of digital. It was an amazing, amazing time to be there. And I got to work on scaling Dreamforce from, 10,000, 20,000 people to 100,000 people with incredible talented event leaders, working on every single product line, driving hundreds of millions of dollars in pipeline and revenue for Salesforce, and building some of the most innovative programs that they had. My team brought in social, brought in retargeting, any sort of new innovative digital tactic my team probably worked on and brought into Salesforce, which was awesome. And then I definitely got to start a bug, and it's been with me ever since, and ran marketing for ABM, which is a retargeting company, and did that, wrote a book with them. The running joke with my best friend is anytime her daughter has trouble sleeping, she takes one of the books I've written and just sits down with her daughter, and she's out in 5 minutes.
Perfect.
They're great books. They're just, very exciting business books. Yeah, so with that ad role, and now most recently I was running VP of marketing at Fox, and then I started their customer engagement program. There's so much of my career has been focused on how do you drive net new, how do you drive acquisition, how do you tell really compelling stories to grow a brand? And then with customer engagement, it was, okay, great, someone's a customer, what do you do with it? How do you drive product adoption? How do you drive high value usage so they become advocates, or they expand, or they upsell? But honestly, a big theme for my career really has been, okay, this is great, but what else is there? How can we try and do something different? Is there a new way of thinking about this, or a new program? And that really even happened several times at Fox, that myself and my team started the account-based marketing program at Fox. And I unintentionally did ABM at Salesforce. I don't think that's what it was called back then, but we ran a social enterprise campaign, and we came up with a target account list and worked with sales on joint plans. And it was this great, great push. And now when I think about it, and this was, probably 6 years ago, I had no idea at the time it would be the thing that turned into account-based marketing. Right. And when I had gotten to Fox is super interesting. There's over 80,000 customers, over 65% of the Fortune 500. But, I know marketers aren't good at math, but 65% of 500 is not nearly as many as over 80,000 customers. So where do all these other customers come from? Fox has this really unique challenge of a really robust enterprise business and a very large volume-based business. And I came in and said, this is, great, but how are we going to both drive volume and also drive the enterprise and drive up market? Right. And that really was one of the pushes for kicking off and expanding our account-based marketing program.
I love that. Yeah, it sounds like you were involved with a few things before they were cool. You talked earlier about basically lead scoring before lead scoring was a thing, running ABM before ABM was a thing. So obviously you've got some experience, even though it came in a non-traditional route that other marketers can learn from. I hit the job market in 2008 with a journalism degree. So I wasn't trying to launch a business, but I was trying to get a job in a fast changing, contracting industry around 2008. So I can associate with you with kind of staring out into the market, thinking, what the heck right now around 2008. So I can associate with that part of your journey as well. Well, all of that being said, Lauren, let's talk about ABM and where to start, because I think there are a lot of marketers who are bought in, but a lot of folks kind of staring out into the void like you and I were in 2008 in different scenarios, wondering, where do I start? And you had a presentation that you did on this about the ABM program that you launched and led the team on at Box. And I love the way you broke it down as a starting point in 3 specific goals. Can you speak to that and speak to getting started with your account-based marketing program?
Sure. When you're starting with account-based marketing, and honestly, when you're starting with any program, any initiative for marketing, and I've done this with every team that I've worked on who come and says, like, give me the presentation and the pitch. And I'm the person that will look at them and stare at them and go, hang on, I don't understand what you're talking about. What are you trying to accomplish? Tell me what your goals are, and then tell me your pitch, your presentation, all of the things, and I can help you understand, is this going to get you to your end result? So when we started with account-based marketing at Box, and it's anytime you start something new, whether it's ABM or you are figuring out lead scoring before there are words to describe lead scoring or whatever it is, you need to understand, what are you trying to accomplish so you know if it's working or not. So we said, okay, we've got this new thing. We want to try account-based marketing. What do we want it to do? And we said, well, the first goal is going to be provide account intelligence. So we have 50 accounts, 1,000 accounts. Who are they? What's the profile? How many contacts? What is the account intelligence, the robustness of the account? The second thing we said, well, we want to drive awareness and engagement. So we have these accounts in this account-based marketing program. We want them to know who we are. We want them to know why we're better. And we want them to be really engaged with us. And we did this through things like targeted advertising or nurture programs or corporate events and getting people to events or sales enablement. And then honestly, for anyone who spent a lot of time working with sales, as I have and many marketers probably have, they love the idea of account intelligence because it makes sellers better sellers. They love the idea of warming up leads and driving engagement, the sort of goal of awareness and engagement. But honestly, they don't hear you until it's that sort of that final goal, which for us was, how do we help sales land new accounts and expand existing accounts? So we have 3 goals of provide account intelligence, drive awareness and engagement, and help sales land new accounts and expand existing. Ultimately, the one that was most important to our sales team was how do we help them make more money?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you get into that third goal and you're talking about actually helping them set appointments and sales enablement and really in the trenches with them there, right?
Exactly. And I mean, I'm happy to go into some of what we did with that. And what the sales often doesn't realize is we can't really effectively set appointments for them and help drive a really robust, EICs, which were for our Executive Innovation Center or Executive Briefing Center, depending on where you are. Okay. We can't really help drive those deep, deep conversations and set appointments and get meetings for them if we don't first acquire contacts, do all of the account profiling, build awareness, driving engagement. And then that final thing, the real payoff is, we always call it at bats. How do I give sales as many at bats as possible? I want them in the room with as many high quality, warm prospects as possible. I want them to be in the room, to go to meetings, to, sit next to each other at a dinner. I want sales to be really trained and able to have deep, deep conversations with these people, because part of the goal of my team is, how do we drive these at bats? How do we get them in the room?
Hey everybody, Logan with Sweetfish here. You probably already know that we think you should start a podcast if you haven't already. But what if you have and you're asking these kinds of questions? How much has our podcast impacted revenue this year? How's our sales team actually leveraging the podcast content? If you can't answer these questions, you're actually not alone. This is why Casted created the very first content marketing platform made specifically for B2B podcasting. Now you can more easily search and share your audio content while getting greater visibility into the impact of your podcast. The marketing teams at Drift, Terminus, and here at Sweetfish have started using Casted to get more value out of our podcasts, and you probably can too. You can check out the product in action at casted.us/growth. That's casted.us/growth. All right, let's get back to the show. Yeah. So we'll come back to getting buy-in from sales, but the way that you put that there, Lauren, it makes me think about it kind of in a different way. It's, there's the awareness of the accounts externally and you're warming up those leads, but there's also the education you're doing internally. You're making the sellers better sellers. So did you kind of look at it as a two-pronged approach? I mean, we have to market to our clients, but we have to turn internally and market to our salespeople and educate our salespeople. And maybe this feeds right into how you did get buy-in from sales. Maybe that is the roadmap. I'll let you speak to it a little more.
It's so important to get that buy-in from sales. And you talk a little bit about sort of the internal enablement and the internal selling. As much as, B2B marketers want to think we can do things on our own, we can't. And the relationship between sales and marketing, and I'm sure there's been podcasts and everyone talks about how important the relationship between sales and marketing is. Mm-hmm. When you're doing ABM, if you don't have complete buy-in from the sales organization and your sellers aren't enabled for your program will fail. It doesn't matter how perfect your targeting is, how perfect your pick list is, or your target account list. It doesn't matter how perfect everything you did is. If you don't have buy-in from sales, if sales isn't properly trained to know, okay, it's these accounts, this is what I do when I get them. Here's the right messaging. Here's all my enablement materials. Here's all the bits and pieces. Your program's not going to work out. So for us, and it ties together really well on when we first kicked off the program. So when we first kicked off ABM at Box, we did it in a couple of phases. It started out, honestly, very ad hoc. And if you sort of put everything on paper, and I'll walk you through how we started it, there's so many ways you can say, it's not the right way to pick account. And this isn't the right way to do this, and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, yep, great. On paper, there's all these things you can do on paper, but part of it is how do you know the culture of your organization and how do you really build that momentum? Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we did was starting with just a general proof of concept. So we said, we want to do this account-based marketing thing. It is a totally new way to think about, or at least at Box at the time, to think about how are you driving, enterprise? How are you driving marketing for the enterprise? And we've been doing other tactics before. We still do a ton of field marketing. And I think field marketing, especially in the enterprise, is so effective right now. But we said we need something else. And we could have gone through all of the channels and went top down and talked to the head of sales and got on a mandate and pushed everything down. And we're like, you know what? It's going to take too long. And the people on the ground aren't going to buy in. And honestly, sales has a ton of stuff to do. And they don't need us saying, hey, we have this new idea. Mm-hmm. But what we ended up doing is we have good relationships with some salespeople. As every marketer at every single level should have, is good relationships with individual sellers. So we said, okay, let's get a couple of salespeople that we have deep relationships with that are high energy, highly influential within the sales organization. They're super engaged. They like us. And they're also smart because they're sitting there going, these marketers are saying they have something for me that can help me make more money. And I just need to try this thing for them. If it works, they give me extra help and extra support. I can hit my number faster. Yes, I'll work with these marketers. So we got one sales VP who was super engaged. We got 5 reps. And we're like, great. We have sales VPs, we have reps. And we sat down with them and we said, okay, we're going to try account-based marketing. And what we want to do is partner with you on a handful of accounts that you're having trouble getting penetration in. And we're going to take a lot of the load. And we was completely opportunistic. We got I think it was 3 accounts from each, sorry, it was 5 accounts from each of the reps. So we had about 25 accounts coming in. And we said, okay, we've got these accounts. And what we're going to do is we're going to deploy a couple of tactics. We're going to do account profile. We're going to do account profiling, contact acquisition, build that up. And then we're going to see what we can do to get appointments set. Everything is done manual. It's manually tracked. We're having weekly calls with the sellers saying, okay, this is what we're doing. Here's the depth of account information where you don't have a ton of money for awareness, but we're doing a little bit for these 25 accounts. Anytime we see any one of these accounts or they're co-located near any of our events, we'll invite them to events. We're going to work on doing the appointment setting for you. And what can we do to get some penetration? And really what we were looking for is a couple of quick wins. We needed a couple of sellers to be really excited about the program. Oh, and in addition to all of that, we also said, with these accounts, can we build you? Is there custom messaging we can build you? Can we give you custom email templates, any one sheet or any bit of content that is a little more, that is more relevant and more personalized to these accounts? So you're not getting the same sort of broad marketing messaging. We're going to tweak this just for these accounts.
I love how you mentioned, did you say you guys were having weekly calls with the reps, not just your sales VP? Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And the other thing I think sales probably really had to appreciate is I feel like a lot of sellers out there feel like it's kind of their job to take the marketing, the generalized marketing speak, as you mentioned, and turn it into sales speak. You know, they have something that kind of speaks to this industry, but then they're the ones having the conversation. Hey, Mr. Customer, I know about this account, and take that general marketing message and really apply it. So the fact that you were coming to them and saying, hey, can we do this for you? I bet the response was pretty good, right?
Oh, they were so excited. And it was the marketing is listening. Marketing is legitimately trying to help us. And having these weekly calls, and they're not insanely long weekly calls because sellers don't want insanely long weekly calls.
Right.
It is, okay, this is what's going on. What do you have? Okay, there were 25 accounts. We had appointments set with, 3 of the accounts. How did it go? What was good? What was bad? And getting this sort of real-time feedback on what we were doing. And it was so we could course correct. And then it's like, okay, we need a couple of quick wins, that we need to create a couple of opportunities and accounts that just we haven't been able to crack. And once we got, I think we probably ended up with 5 or 6 opportunities. So not a huge volume. But if you think about it, what is that, like 20%? We created about 20% opportunities in accounts we were never really able to crack. And what we needed was a couple of success stories. We needed sales to be excited so that we can go back and say, these sellers are influential in the sales organization. Now they're going to tell other sellers, and other sellers were coming to us saying, hey, I've got a few accounts. Can I get these accounts on this list? And then by the time we started doing planning for next year and we talked to the global VP of sales, we could sit down with him and say, so this is what we're thinking. He's like, I keep hearing about this ABM program, you guys. What are you doing? And it wasn't us trying to sell and pitch him. His guys, and because they actually happened to all be guys, his guys were telling him about this and telling him about the ABM program. And then we have these win reports, and we get a win report that references the program. And we're starting to get this like natural excitement and saying, okay, this seems like it could have legs. Let's actually do this the right way, and let's actually try this and not get the sales rep, in whatever random place and whatever random industry that we just happen to have a good relationship. Let's do this the right way.
Yeah, I love that. So it didn't start with the global head of sales. Hey, sit down for this 30-minute slide deck. We're going to learn you something. We're going to teach you about this new thing called ABM and tell you why it's so great and why we need your buy-in. You did the selling internally with this proof of concept and worked closely not only with sales leadership, but with the sales reps. I love that.
All right, today's growth story revolves around search engine marketing. And we'll be shining the spotlight on Aegis Software, a company that makes software for manufacturing operations. Aegis was one of the first companies in their space to invest in search marketing. But as competition grew, their performance plateaued. To counter this, they hired Directive Consulting, the B2B search marketing agency. With unparalleled experience in inbound lead gen for B2B companies, Directive was able to increase Aegis's monthly online leads by 457%. while at the same time lowering their cost per lead by 147%. Now, I have a hunch that Directive can get these kind of results for you too. So head over to directiveconsulting.com and request a totally free custom proposal. That's directiveconsulting.com. All right, let's get back to this interview.
One of the things I wanted to have you touch on, Lauren, is, and we'll link to your prior presentation on this in the show notes, but if you could touch a little bit on the specifics that you guys built in your measurement model for ABM, because I think there are some great lessons learned there and some things that marketers can start to think about as they try to formalize their own ABM program.
Sure. So when we started to build a measurement model, a couple of things that are really important to note. With ABM, you have to measure at the account level. I know for a lot of tracking in Salesforce, it's going to be on the opportunity, and the opportunity is going to have contacts associated with the opportunity. And you're going to say, and I mean, I see this all the time. I have this opportunity, it's $1 million opportunity, and the rep puts, the CIO and the, VP of IT as the contacts associated with that opportunity. But for $1 million deal, there's actually, 20 contacts on the account. They put whoever on.
Right.
The problem with that is you may have done all of this ABM work and it might not have hit the CIO for some reason. So now you're not going to get credit. So if you're not looking on, and I hate the word credit, but for me to know what's working and what's not working, and put money against something, you have to tag things.
Right.
It's not about credit. If you want things that work to keep working, you need to know where everything sits. So we had to push everyone to say, I need to track this at the account level. I don't want to track this at the contact level, because it's not about the contact, it's about the entire account. So we have these, once we actually did our first sort of small pilot, is about 150 accounts. And I wanted to look at everything against those accounts, so not against specific names or specific opportunities, what's happening with these businesses. So what we'd end up doing on an account level is, first thing so if you start to look at sort of quick wins to long term, the thing with ABM and with enterprise, for the most part, as my generalization, enterprise deals, which is typically what you're going to run an ABM program with, take a long time. It is not, I profiled an account, I drove awareness, I set up an appointment, and they spent $1 million in a month. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be 12 months, 18 months, if you're lucky, 6 to 9 months. So you're running a program and you're kicking off this new program and you're like, don't worry, boss. In 18 months, I'm going to tell you if this works, but just keep giving me money and I'm going to spend a ton of time. And in a year and a half, I'll let you know. No one is going to do that. I don't care how much you like ABM. You're not going to wait a year and a half. So we looked at what are the other things that we can do and what's the measurement model we're going to look at. So we sort of looked at these quick wins, short-term measurements, mid-term measurements, long-term measurements. So initially, again, at the account level, we looked at, is there an increase in awareness? And how we measured that was, what is the percentage increase in website traffic from target accounts? So if you have demand base on your website, for example, it can tell you if my target account is, let's say, one of the biggest companies in the world, let's say it's GE. You are running an ABM program you're targeting GE. You can look at how much website traffic there is from GE today. You start the program, is there an increase? And the website is a really good proxy for awareness within that company. Then we started to look at, well, how many new contacts are we adding? And so the metric for that is the number of new contacts added, also the number of kind of engagements and leads. So not just new contracts, but are they downloading information? Are they turning into leads? So that's our short term, that's our leading indicators. The next thing that we looked at was how engaged are these contacts and leads, and what is the pipeline that's starting to come through? So we looked at, well, how many sales appointments have we set? So we actually used an external agency to help us do some appointment setting. And, we have our internal BDR team that is going and doing sort of outsourced cold calling into accounts. But the sellers have an entire book of business that's not just what we're doing. So we actually, in addition to driving awareness, we'd help do appointment setting. So we looked at how many appointments are set, and then what is the pipeline source and influence? So we have an account. We'll use GE as the example. GE was not part of this program, but they're a great example.
We'll keep going with it. It's fine.
We'll keep going with GE. I'm like, who am I not going to get in trouble for?
Right. I can hear the wheels turning. Sure.
So, we have GE and we've increased the number of contacts. There's, 10 new appointments. A new opportunity comes in that has, the $1 million of pipeline sitting on it. So was the pipeline sourced by ABM or did ABM touch this at all? So we have that as sort of a midterm metric, which honestly, you should start seeing that stuff taking in 3 to 6 months. It's not going to be a closed deal, but after 6 months, if you have no appointments set for your target account, there's a problem. Mm-hmm. And then finally, we wanted to say, this is all great. It's 6 months, it's a year. Are we winning or losing? Which is, what is your ARR sourced and touched? And then what's your funnel velocity? I love looking at velocity metrics to understand the effectiveness of enterprise marketing programs.
Absolutely.
And so it is, the average sales cycle is 9 months. If it was an ABM account, it happened in 7 months. So is my sales cycle faster? I also really like looking at win rate. So is my sales cycle faster and has my win rate improved? If my average win rate is 30% and the win rate for my ABM account is 40%, that helps me know, okay, the marketing we're doing is working because we are not just touching more revenue, we are also getting that revenue in the door faster and it's closing at a higher rate. So that's how we look at this, really robust measurement model. And you can there's great tools that'll help you measure. When you're just getting started, for us, it was box notes and Excel spreadsheets. And you can get away with box notes and Excel spreadsheets, honestly, for your first year.
I like what you said there about tracking the long term, that you're getting there, but it's a stair-step model of those quick wins, the midterm goals, and then those long-term goals, but not just looking at, okay, how many deals out of our ABM campaign did we close? Because that is a very narrow view of it. What is our win rate? And are we closing deals faster? Because, having led sales teams in the past, those are two things I'm consistently looking at is, your win rate and your sales velocity. So I think it's very smart to build those into your measurements of your ABM campaign. We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big Three, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.